Hey guys, this is Dave with Gazaudio, and this is the Aune Yuki, Aune's first entry into the dongle market. They do have some other portable devices like the BU1 and BU2, and I think they also have a DAP as well, but I'm fairly certain this is their first dongle-style DAC amp. Now, I will tell you right now that the Yuki has made my top 4 under $200, and it may have even tied for third place, so it's going to be up against the best of the best, like the M3 Mark II, Moon River 2, and the Hibby FC6. That being said, like every device out there, it does have its flaws. So as usual, I'll talk a little bit about my experience with the Yuki, I'll do a sound breakdown, and then I'll tell you where I feel the Yuki lands in terms of the competition. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get into this. As far as what's included in the box, you have the Yuki itself. It also includes a short Type-C to Type-C USB cable and a Type-A to Type-C adapter. As for the price, specifications, and design, the Yuki comes in at $169 and has dual CS43198 DAC chips, which is the same chip that is used in the Moon River 2 Ti, the KA5, K11, and several other popular devices on the market. But the Yuki does use dual DAC chips along with a discrete headphone amp section, and it can decode up to 32-bit PCM and DSD 256. As far as the Yuki's power output, I was only able to find the power output with a 30 ohm load, not a 32 ohm load, which is fine because it's probably going to be about the same anyway. It gives you about 90 milliwatts out of the 3.5 single-ended output and 160 milliwatts out of the 4.4 balanced output, so not bad. But what's really impressive is its output levels, which is 2 volts RMS out of the 3.5 and 4 volts RMS out of the 4.4. And what that means, if you have a 32 ohm headphone that maybe has a lower sensitivity, that extra output should help ensure that you won't have to worry about reaching good listening levels, which was the case with all of my headphones. As for inputs, outputs, and buttons, on the top there is a USB Type-C input. On the bottom it gives you both a 3.5 single-ended output and a 4.4 balanced output, and then on the back they've taken a slightly different approach to the volume controls, and instead of a volume rocker on the side, they put the volume buttons on the back, which is fine. However, it was a little awkward at first trying to reach them and just a little hard getting used to, but after using it for a while, eventually I got used to it. As for the design, I love it. I love the white and gold body with the window. It looks super cool and plays nicely off of the cream and red amp circuit inside. My only concern is I'm just not sure how it will hold up as far as resisting scratches over time. I haven't had any issues yet, but I've also been extremely careful when handling it, so I guess only time will tell. Okay, let's move on to the sound. Okay, let's talk about the sound of the Yuki. As always, I feel I should preface this by reminding you that every device in your chain is important and will impact the overall sound performance to one degree or another. However, ultimately, the level of your listening experience will be determined by the performance of your IEMs or headphones. Now, one thing I quickly want to address is that I did notice just a little more battery drain than what I'm used to getting with some of my other more efficient dongles. It wasn't a huge difference though, maybe an extra 3 to 5% loss compared to the Moon River 2 Ti or the M3 Mark II. And that's not really a big deal for me at all, but I thought I would address it. Maybe that might matter to some of you. Okay, moving on. So I recently reviewed the Muse Hi-Fi M4, and that device was pretty linear for the most part, but it was a little lean or thin in its overall presentation. And I've had several devices that have kind of come across my review table that have had that issue before. But that's definitely not the case with the Yuki. And in terms of its general presentation, it's quite linear and uncolored, but it doesn't come across as clinical or cold. There is still something about how it portrays instruments and vocals that keeps it from kind of falling into that clinical territory, but it's not what I would consider to be warm either. It sits very comfortably kind of right in between being clinical and musical. So it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. And it maintains good amounts of detail as well, while also rendering instruments naturally. And those attributes are sustained throughout the entire spectrum. So there is virtually no coloration in the Yuki's presentation, which means you're going to get really good transparency, and your IEMs or headphones should be able to maintain their sound signatures. Now, as for detail levels, it's very good. Maybe not the best in this price range, but I would say better than most in this price range. And I'll go into more detail when I get into the comparisons. But as far as drivability, again, it's not quite to the levels of the Moon River 2 Ti, which has 250 milliwatts of power, or the Shanling UA5, which has 211 milliwatts of power. But 160 milliwatts is still pretty good. And what it does give you, again, is 4 volts RMS of output out of the 4.4 output, which, again, if you've got 32 ohm headphones that have a lower sensitivity, it should have no problem getting it up to pretty high volumes. Now, of course, like any DAC in this price range, where it might struggle or lack with some full-size headphones is in its dynamic ability and its transients. But in all honesty, it still did a fairly good job with all of my headphones. Now, another area the Yuki performed very well in is noise levels. Of course, I tested it with my 2020 Andromedas, and there wasn't really any background noise at all during even the quietest parts of the music, or when there was no music at all. So that's pretty impressive. So where does the Yuki land in terms of the competition? As I had stated in my opening, when it comes to the Yuki's general sound performance, it's competing right up there with some of my best dongles around the $200 price bracket. The FC6 is still my favorite though, so it doesn't quite dethrone that one, but the Yuki is pretty much neck and neck with the Muse Hi-Fi M3 Mark II. Now, I'm still going to give second place to the Moon River 2 Ti because it does have a little more power output and just slightly better overall sound performance in general. But what that means is that the Yuki is basically, again, this is just my opinion, tied for third place, which is pretty impressive given this is Aune's first entry into the dongle market, which means, of course, it also does get my recommendation. So well done, Aune. And with that, that concludes my review of the Aune Yuki. If you are new to the channel and you like our videos, please take a minute and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to go a step further, you can also support us through our Patreon. I'll be sure and leave a link in the description. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this review. Please like this video, please share this video. I hope you guys have an awesome day.